Hello there. Today I want to be sharing my review of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I actually just finished reading this book this week. I was doing a book club. Shout out to Rebecca from the CEO Crowd for hosting those. And this month our topic was finance. And so I read a lot of fiction books, but this year I also wanted to incorporate some business books and give you guys some reviews on here so that I can share what I've learned from these books, and if you want to read them, you definitely can. If you don't want to read them, you can get all the info from me. So, without further ado, here is my review on Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So, again, just an introduction. I did a book club. I chose this book specifically because in the field of finance, this seemed to be a classic. Every single list I was pulling up on Google, every single YouTube video I was watching really recommended this for being able to grow your business finances. And it really is a classic. And so I thought, why not read it? Why not go through it and just see my thoughts on it? And it was pretty good, to be honest. So my overall rating, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is I thought it was pretty dated. It was written in the 1930s. So when he's talking about the next thing to, grow your business, he's talking about radio, which I thought was so funny because now we have podcasts and some of the things he was saying, it was right after the Great Depression that he wrote this book. So again, it kind of parallels to where we're at now with a recession economically. There was a lot of dated things. And so I didn't think that it was probably the most relevant book in terms of growing your finances or starting a business in 2024. But I do think that a lot of the principles did relate to what's happening now and things that are still relevant. I also found it really cool that he was talking about how your thoughts impact your life. And I thought that that was a pretty new age topic. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks all about that. I thought that that was kind of like his work and he was the first to talk about it. But Napoleon Hill actually talks quite a bit about this in his book. And so it's really funny to see that the information has been around for almost 100 years. And even now, a lot of people are skeptical about it, but it is becoming more mainstream. But this has been around for a while. And so I thought that that was just really interesting overall. So again, I really like the principles of this book, even the title, Think and Grow Rich. He gives a lot of examples of different entrepreneurs who have started off with a thought, even though it seems completely crazy. Maybe they grew up really poor and then they had this idea that they were going to partner with someone who is really high up in the business world. But being able to even think about that, they were able to climb that ladder and get there. And so really the concept is it starts in your mind before it will ever be present in your reality. And if you stay the course and really just stay on your journey and focus on the end result, you will get to the end result because your brain has already conceptualized of it versus someone who doesn't have that goal, isn't thinking those thoughts, or is always focused on I'll end up in poverty, this won't work out, or making those backup plans. Instead, like really focused on where you want to go and taking aligned action every single day. So yeah, it was really interesting to read a book that's 90 years old, similar concepts to what you're seeing today on YouTube and podcasts, in books and trainings and courses. And like I said, it's been around for a while, so it is tried and true. And I thought it was just a good reminder to read the book. Had some great concrete examples of people who have applied these principles. As a woman reading this book, I thought it was really interesting because every example is a man. So I feel like it could be updated now to give some more female examples of people who are able to accomplish some great things. So again, that kind of withdrew me from the book, but I think overall it was very motivational reading it before work. The concepts I think you could read over and over and over and solidify them. And I do think that Napoleon Hill, I have to give him some credit. I think he was definitely a pioneer in his thinking because even today, sometimes those things are a little bit woo-woo to talk about or futuristic or whatnot, but he was talking about these in the 1930s. So he really put himself out there. There was this whole scene too where he was talking about having a business conference with people that, were dead already, wouldn't be around, and he was asking them questions and stuff. I think even now people would have a hard time accepting that. I thought it was really cool, but I can't even imagine how much of a leap he took himself, putting himself out there like this almost 100 years ago. So anyway, I have to really admire the author and all of his concepts and just the bravery for him to put this work out in the world at the time that he did. So my biggest takeaway from this book is that the thoughts in mind are super powerful. I've got that from other books too, but this just reiterates it. I think the more you read about concepts or see concepts applied, the more you ingrain it into your subconscious. So it definitely doesn't hurt to read this book. I also really liked kind of the chapters at the end, which I'll go into in the next slide, and how reflective that was. I think that in this, you're really examining and changing your thoughts to create your desired future. So one, figuring out what your desired future is, and two, really thinking about that. And this wasn't from the book, but something that I heard very similar is like, all you have to do is spend more than half your time in that positive versus the negative, and you'll be more positive than negative. Have at least 50% of your thoughts be thoughts of working out versus not working out. And that just needs to be the dominant thought in your brain. So I left feeling really inspired after this book. Like I said, each time I sat down to read it, I felt really inspired to get to work. I liked reading it before work because then I was able to apply these in my day. And I just realized that I still need to work on my thoughts, behaviors, habits, actions. All of those really do add up to who you are, what kind of business you're growing, the money that you're calling into your life. And so even studying this for a while, I think this book really humbles you with where you're at and where you're going. Again, it leaves you with a lot to reflect on. I think my favorite part was at the end, there is a chapter of questions to evaluate your life. And he recommends taking one chapter and really writing about, or not one chapter, one question and really writing about the answer. They were really profound questions. It really makes you think, oh, I have been keeping myself stuck in my life. I have been making excuses. There was also a chapter with all the excuses in it. I will be journaling on these questions, and I think it really will help me grow personally as well as grow my business, because there's been a lot of thoughts that I think and things that I do that probably aren't aligned with my end goal. Like I said, there was a chapter on excuses. I'll be pondering this for a long time and even going back to it, because every excuse in the book was lined out there, and I think you really call yourself out and recognize like, hey, I do use this excuse, and what it is really an excuse. It's not a reason why I can't achieve my goal. So again, this book really humbles you. Like I said, stick it out. The beginning, you may have heard this stuff before, but once you get to the end, I think that's where the book really packs the punch. Originally, I was going to give it 3 stars maybe, like it was good, it was okay, but these ending chapters, they really changed it for me. They really made me think and very much humbled me that even though I've done a lot of personal development work and work in my business, there's still a long way to go. So would I recommend this book? Yes, 10 out of 10. Anyone who has a business, I would recommend it. For anyone who's starting a business, I think that this can be one of the first books you read, because it gives a really good idea of like, hey, let's just figure out where we want to get to and align our habits and our thoughts with that. I also think this is good for people not in business. If you are a high achiever, if you do have a lot of goals to achieve and you're just up for a good read. So overall, I'm really happy that I read this book. I think it is a classic. I'll be returning to it to answer some of those questions, read through those excuses again. And I do know that if I am not hitting my goals, this may be a good book to reread, and I think that's why it has stood the test of time. That's why it's popular almost 90 years later, and I think that this book will continue to be popular in the business sphere. So if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you're gonna read this book, if you have read this book, or if you have any other financial book recommendations. And please subscribe if you want to learn more about business and lead generation. I am posting daily at this point, so I hope to see you in the next video.